Autotrader. So I'm Natalie. I've also got Tracy here and Newman. So basically we're going to do a little bit of a design workshop with you all today. So there is a video that you can see on the expo area if you want to learn a bit more about Autotrader. I'm just going to get started talking about the session for today now. So design at Autotrader. How does design work? So we have 18 people working in our core design team. So our design team influences the largest automotive marketplace in the UK. And on average, our designs are seen by 55 million consumers a month. Our design team at the moment is made up of product designers, content designers, user researchers, and visual designers. So as you can see here, product designers, they tend to look at the bigger picture and design things with the user in mind. Content designers make sure that the terminology and placement of information makes sense for our users. User researchers make sure what we design works and meets the user's needs. And visual designers, they tend to develop a brand that makes sure that is strong and identifiable across the web. So this is who we are. So like I said earlier, I'm Natalie. I'm a senior user researcher at Autotrader. We've got Newman here who'll give us a little wave. He's also a senior user researcher at Autotrader. And then we've got Tracy. So Tracy will give you a wave as well. Tracy is our principal product designer as well. So this is a team. We're going to be working with you all today. We're really excited to talk to you all about design. I'm really just thanking you all for taking part today. So going to get started, and Newman's going to start off talking to you all a little bit more about design at Autotrader.
Hi everyone, thanks for that lovely intro, Nat. Right, my little bit here is to prove to you that we are all designers, because design is thinking made visual. Okay, so first thing I'm going to try and prove that. You're going to need a few pieces of paper and a pen. First thing, get a piece of paper. And now what I want you to do is tear it in half. I'm guessing you did it wrong. I actually wanted you to tear it in portrait, not landscape. What's my point? Well, words can be fickle things. What I say doesn't necessarily mean what you hear, and you're not going to do exactly the same thing as me, because there's a lot open to interpretation. And that's why in design we like to use pictures, because you can communicate your ideas a little bit clearer and a little bit better. Okay, next thing. What I want you to do, you've got 1 minute, and what I want you to do is draw a bunch of little circles and a little picture in them all. All right, ready to go? You've got 1 minute, and your 1 minute starts now. As many little pictures as you can do. Thirty seconds left. Fifteen seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Done. Right, how many pictures have you got? If you got 12, you've done pretty good, actually. You see, like, as a kid, you would have been able to draw as many circles all day as you wanted really, really quickly. But what happens, we grow old and we think too much. We're spending too much of our time just thinking about what it is I'm going to be drawing, rather than actually drawing things itself. But in fact, you can draw, right? So let's all do a little drawing together. Get another piece of paper. I'm seeing actually here 9, 8, 3, 5. 9's the highest. That's pretty good. 12, yes. Okay, I'll get lost in the comment section here. Right, we're going to do another drawing. Get another piece of paper. And what I want you to do is just do a big squiggle in it. There you go. There's an example. And now what I want you to do is put a beak on the right side. Now put a big round dot behind that beak. It's an eye. Draw 2 little feet underneath. Bird feet. And put a big tail on the left. There you go. You've got yourself a squiggle bird. Point is, you can all draw. Let's move on to design stuff now. To Tracy.
Hi. So we're going to run through a little task, something that perhaps we would kind of follow at Auto Trader as well. So when we're thinking in design terms, one thing that we do talk about is personas, and what personas do, they help us to understand who we're designing for. So for example, at Auto Trader, we have to design for people who don't actually know an awful lot about cars, but knowing this helps us to design the website so that we know how much to help and how much help to give our users. Another thing that we talk a lot about within design is user interfaces. So a user interface is something that a human interacts with, and they're absolutely everywhere. So user interfaces, they're all around us, from the apps we use on our mobile phones and to even to household items like television remotes. So we're going to do a bit of a design task. So if you get a piece of paper, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at designing the front of a microwave. Now, what you must include on this design is a door, a button to open this door, a timer that works between 0 and 60 minutes, a power setting from high to defrost, and any other controls you think that might be important. And you've got 5 minutes. So I'm going to time this and I'll give you an update. So let's make a start. If anybody wants to ask any questions, then I'll keep an eye out in the 5 minutes on the chat. So we've got 2 minutes left. We've got a minute left. Ten seconds. There we go. Done. So, where did you put the door? Where did you put the controls? Now, what we'd like you to do is have a think of why you designed it the way you did, and write down why you did that, any reasons around that, and this will help you a little bit later on. So these questions that we would have asked ourselves during this design task. So, is there easy movement between the door and the controls? There's various options here on this screen where, sorry, yeah, sorry, I'm a bit ahead of the slides. So there's various options here on this slide showing kind of different examples of how you could have designed it. This one here shows potentially what we would class as the right way. Now, thinking about it, if you was somebody who had the use of both your hands, having the hinges and the controls next to each other, that might be okay because you've got both hands to play with. If you're thinking about someone who perhaps has only got one hand to use, then having those controls and the door close together might actually help things a little bit better. So where did you put the button to open that door? Should it go at the bottom? And with it being at the side, you can open the door easier. Where was the numbers? Where did you put those? The seconds and minutes. But something that we may have missed. So what now? How would you enter? What about a power option? And then also power and timer. And did we actually deliver all the requirements that were asked of us up front? So a door, a button to open the door, timer, and the power setting. But there may have been some things that we missed. So how would you start the microwave? And how would you stop it? So when we think about design, it's never perfect from the start, and that's absolutely fine. As we work through design, we work out things that we may have missed, things that we would do differently. And it's great to kind of investigate that and work things out as we go along. And as long as at Auto Trader, what we actually say is fail fast and learn from your mistakes. So it's okay to fail, as long as we learn from those mistakes, what went wrong, and it's going to help us in the future to make better design decisions. So now I think we're going to hand over to Nat, and she's going to look at some testing.
Perfect, thank you, Tracy. And so what I want to do just before we move on to the next session is if you all take 5 minutes just to write down why you designed your microwave the way that you did. So if I go back a few slides, let's see if I can do that. So Tracy spoke about how it's important to write down why we made the decisions that we did, and this will come to help you later on in the session today. So just take 5 minutes now to write down why you designed your microwave the way that you did. And since then, as we've been talking a little bit more, whether there's anything that you've sort of noticed that you've missed off, and talk through sort of would you add that and why you think that's needed. So just make some notes next to your design and we'll pick up on those a little bit later on. So we've got 5 minutes starting now. And if anybody does have any questions, feel free to write those in the chat on the side. Okay, so you've got 3 minutes left just to jot down why you designed your microwave the way that you did. Okay, 2 minutes left. Okay, about 30 seconds left now. Okay, perfect. So by now you should have all sketched out your microwave design. And as Tracy said earlier, it's so important that we test our designs to make sure they work as expected for our users. So we never expect at Autotrader for one of our designers to create a design and it be perfect from their first attempt. So we always make sure that we test what we build. So what we're going to actually ask you to do is just test your microwave. So the task that we're going to give you today is that you need to cook a frozen microwave lasagna. So the lasagna needs to be defrosted for 4 minutes and it needs to be cooked on a medium heat for 5.5 minutes. So what we want you to do is use your finger and imagine that you're using the microwave to cook a frozen lasagna. So you have 5 minutes to test your microwave to see how it goes. And what we're hoping is that you'll find out from actually using it to try and cook something that you might see that you might have missed out on a few things. So if you do notice anything like that, make sure that you jot it down. If anybody does have any questions on this, do feel free to ask them in the chat, but I'm going to start another 5-minute timer now. Okay, so you've just got just short of 3 minutes left now. Okay, so we've got a minute left now. Okay, perfect. So, congratulations to everyone who just took part. You just actually did a paper prototype test. So what a paper prototype test is something that we would do at AutoTrader once we've generated a very new design. So rather than spending all of the time and effort building that in one of our design tools, we would sketch out our idea onto paper, and sometimes we'd even just walk around the office to test on people that we work with. And that just means that we aren't wasting time or the tools that we have in an idea that might potentially not work. So the results are in. How did your paper prototype test go? Did your microwave have all of the options that you needed? What we want you to do is write down any changes that you'd want to make to your design now that you have tested it. And remember, it's okay to fail, because that's how we learn. At AutoTrader, we never expect people to get it right the first time round. As long as we do learn from our mistakes, that's all that matters. So take a few seconds now just to write down any of the changes that you'd want to make, and then we'll continue with our next task. So Tracy spoke earlier about personas and how they help us understand the types of people that we're designing for. So thinking about the people whose lives your design will touch, what works for you probably won't work for your average user. So now we want you to think about your design for this type of user. So your microwave is going to be sold to retirement homes. 80% of users tend to cook their meals on full power 70% of the time. And 30% of the users tend to defrost meals before they cook them. Only 2% cook for more than 30 minutes, and the average cooking time is 4 minutes. 60% of your users have bad eyesight, and some might also have mobility issues, which means that they might not be able to select small buttons or use turning mechanisms. Do you think that your design still works for this new type of user? If not, you're going to have to make changes to make sure that the user can use your microwave. So take a few minutes now to think about this type of user, what their needs are, and see if there are any changes that you need to make to your microwave to make sure that they can use it properly. Okay, so you have 1 to 2 more minutes just to talk through this and think about it. So for this one, it's best to put yourself in the mindset of someone who was in a retirement home and their needs that we've got listed on the page here. Okay, so what we always say is that it's best to keep things simple. So for this microwave design, what we've actually included is the average cooking time for somebody for that user group, and we've got very simple and clear buttons for them to use. So if we think back to the ones that we looked at earlier where there were quite a few different options, we've sort of drawn all of that back to make it as easy and simple to use as possible. And sometimes keeping it simple is the hardest part of design. So what we're actually going to leave on today is that if you'd like to win a prize, we want you to send us your designs. So shortly after this session, your teachers will receive the details of our design task, which is going to be similar to what you've been doing with us today. But what we would actually like for you to do is to take a picture of your design and write down some of the points that we've gone through, such as the changes that you've made. And we've also got another short task for you to do. And if you send them over to us, we will go through them all, myself, Tracy and Newman, and we're going to pick a few winners, and we've got a few different prizes up for grabs. So all of those details will be sent to your teachers shortly after today's session.